have a group of an audience here, a group of intelligent-looking young men from Telford. The visitors, we'd like to welcome them. I hope they find it interesting. Any questions they'd like to ask us, we can ask them later. On my right here, we have a lovely lady from Canada, Kelly Mark. She visited us last year. She's back over again. She's going to be involved in the Liverpool Biennial. We'd like to welcome you, Kelly. And the first thing I'd like to ask you is, can you tell us a bit about how you got involved with the Liverpool Biennial? How did it come about?
Well, I took a quick look at your questions before I went out for a smoke. And
you cheeses?
What? Yeah.
You cheeses?
Yeah. Well, just in case I had to go online and research it. Yeah, I mean, that question is, I can answer it in 2 minutes. It wasn't any really long, involved thing. I live in Toronto, which is kind of the biggest city in Canada. Curators, they're always coming through. Man Ray, who's one of the curators. He's based in Berlin, but he does a lot of stuff in Taiwan, I think. I was supposed to do a project with him a few years ago in Taiwan, but it fell through, and then I never heard from the guy again, kind of. And then a couple years later, he came through Toronto. We hooked up, checked out what I had been doing since I had seen him last, and then it was just kind of an immediate thing. I mean, I guess he kind of knew beforehand that he wanted, to work with me. So, it was he comes over to the studio. Do you want to be in the Liverpool Biennial? I was like, yeah, okay. And that was pretty much it. And then, but then, I wasn't really actually counting on it because, another project had fallen through before. So I just kind of, finally, when I think I got contacted by the Biennial people, then I kind of knew it was legit. Yeah, but then I had no kind of conception of how that would play out. So I just kind of waited by the phone or waited by the computer, the email, and then it was just a matter of coming here and then getting it going. So not any kind of really long process or anything. It was just an invitation.
Well, before we go any further, I must make this point. She's saying now to be a bit of a lucky masker for Liverpool. She came over last year, and it coincided with Liverpool winning the greatest ever European Cup final in the history of the game. She's come over this year, and Liverpool's won the greatest ever FA Cup final in the history of the game. So I think the club will be getting in touch with her and advise her over every year when there's a big game up. You've got a project coming up, Kelly, the A to Z project. Could you explain a bit something?
Yeah, it's a strange project. When I was invited to come and do a piece for the Biennial, I had no idea really what I was going to do. I was invited to come do a 4-day site visit last September, and I came, and I'm not sure if it was the Biennial people or the FACT people or the tenant spin people. I mean, they gave me a list of, I arrived and there was a list of things to see, important Liverpool sites, and the other thing too is sometimes with Biennales you just kind of show up and you just either show an older work or do a new piece, but a lot of times it's just about plopping down a big piece in a park, or Biennales are like the big, just create a big artwork, laser show on the side of the building. I mean, it's not something you do a small intimate piece. Usually you try and do those big kind of community pieces. And the other thing about the Biennale I found out when I got here was that I don't know the exact theme, maybe Alan can, but it's supposed to be this kind of social people and kind of involved with people. The whole time I'm trying to come up with things that happened. One was when I came here, they put me up in a. They didn't put me up in a hotel. They put me up in a. I forget the name of it. It's kind of like a furnished apartment, but it's a flat. Maybe businessmen, travel businessmen, book it for the week or for a month. So it was like this furnished apartment. It didn't feel like a hotel room. It felt like an apartment. It had a full bedroom. It had washer and dryer and full kitchen and all the utensils and a dining room and a living room with a TV. And I don't even have that at home, right? I live in my studio. So it was really weird. It was a weird experience. I almost felt like in those 4 days, it's like, oh, I should have a party. I should invite some people over for dinner, you know? And then, so I started thinking about, and then the other thing that happened, again, when I tend to go places and then go home, and I think this is true for everybody. I mean, some people travel and they run around and they make sure they see all the sights and they buy all the souvenirs and take some little souvenir spoons, and you've marked those special, go to the Beatles Museum and get a souvenir. Conversations I've had, it's the people that I remember, conversations, weird little situations. So the other thing that happened when I was here, I was in some bar, some pub. It sounds like I'm a drinker, but and I was waiting. I think I was by myself, and it was like 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And I was waiting for some Biennial people to come and meet me, and I went up to the bar. Canada, and I expected her to say like the stereotypical things, like oh, what a lovely country, or maybe oh, my nephew lives in Vancouver, some kind of like one of those kind of experiences. But what she did was she touched my arm, which is filmed in Canada, which I mean I don't think it is. I think it's filmed in Las Vegas. But I ended up talking to her for an hour, and she just went on and on about Gil Grissom and what a wonderful, beautiful man he is, and how sensitive and smart, and that's the type of when I was here in September, there was kind of all these constraints that were put on me. One being that I had to make the social work. It had to involve the people of Liverpool. It pretty much had to be video because I was already kind of slotted into where I'll be showing is the big jumbo screen downtown. So, you know what I mean? It's like I felt like my box was getting smaller and smaller. So I ended up this was the last day I was here, I decided to actually push back, and I actually threw out a challenge. I was like, okay, if you want me to come do this artwork, I want to come here for 3 months, basically live here. Yeah, I want to be, and I actually really wanted to be in that apartment. And I was going to actually just invite people in Liverpool to come, and I wanted to meet people. I wanted to kind of recreate that experience of talking to that lady in the pub. The project has changed a little bit. I'm in a flat now at Sefton Park, but it's staying kind of true to form. So the project A to Z, and again, or A to Z, I guess, it's about, it's not learning about Liverpool through the people. And the time when I was back in Canada between September and now, I really, I tried not to learn about Liverpool. Every once in a while I was feeling guilty that I wasn't doing research or finding out about the city, and once in a while I'd go to the computer, and then it was really important for me to come here again with a complete blank slate, without any kind of preconceived ideas about Liverpool. I mean, all I know is like soccer, Beatles, and I have this vague kind of memory of like maybe some riots happening or some strikes happening here in the 70s or 80s, but I don't even know. I mean, I think it was a dock thing, but I don't really know anything about it. So I've come here with like complete tabula rasa, and I've invited basically the A to Z is just I'm inviting, and so I have an Adam coming to my apartment, and he's going to tell me his view of Liverpool, and I'm doing like a Bill and a Catherine and I don't know who D is. Eileen is my E, and Fen, who I just did yesterday, who's a traditional Chinese dancer. So I just asked the people at FACT and at the Biennial to give me a cross-section of Liverpool, nice range of ages, occupations, ethnicity, and I'm just finding out about Liverpool. Tonight will be my 8th. So my first interview was Stephen, and I'm not doing it in order, obviously, this is whenever we can book people. So my first one was Stephen, and he's like a 30-ish, he's a skateboarder, runs a skateboard magazine. And then I did, who's after Stephen? Right. Then on the Sunday I did Dolly, she's in her 80s, very politically community involved. We talked a lot about the war years, surviving the Blitz. And then John was my J. We talked a lot about his growing up and his family.
Yeah, but I just talked about football, didn't I? Because we just won the cup.
Yeah, but I edited all that out. And what I'm doing is I'm filming for about a half an hour, and I'm editing these down to 6 minutes, which is there's the experience of me doing it, and I'm talking to these people for anywhere from a half an hour to 40 minutes in the apartment, and I'm learning all this stuff. And the editing process is kind of another step, and then I'm trying to distill that down to 6 minutes. But yeah, it's really interesting. Fen she's only been in the city for 5 years. She's from just south of Shanghai, and her experiences in Liverpool. And the questions I'm asking, I'm not really kind of looking for any kind of historical kind of thing. It was almost just like, we just met, and it's kind of like a little pub chat or over coffee. I make them tea. I usually make them tea, and we sit and we talk for a little while, and then turn the camera on. And I'm not in the video footage at all. The way I'm setting it up is, I always try and think of the viewer of the work afterwards. If someone's walking by the big screen or if it's playing in a gallery somewhere, I didn't really want the viewer to be the third person, because then that person's kind of left out. You end up just you're watching a tennis match, right? You're watching two people talk, and I really wanted to be the viewer, to be the person that was actually receiving this information. So I'm filming it so people sit on the couch, and I set the camera up, and I'm sitting behind the camera. So they're looking at me, so it looks like they're talking to the camera. So and the other thing about the A to Z, and the choice of the A to Z was kind of a last minute thing in Toronto, kind of a couple weeks before I came. It plays into the fact that, I'm using the letters of the alphabet as kind of just a conceptual trope to how to pick people's names, but it also relates to, my wish not to be one of those people that just come and just go to certain areas, Alan was saying something interesting just before the talk, and I think he's writing about it for the catalog, something about anyone who does have an A to Z, there's a little section that's really dog-eared that you go to all the time, maybe the downtown, and then the rest are like pristine pages because you never went there. One thing that's funny, which I'm going to have to wait till the end of the project to figure out, but again, I haven't been able to leave the apartment. So I'm really, again, just learning about Liverpool from the people, because I'm filming 3 times, like I did 3 yesterday, and I edited all night till about like 2 in the morning, and then I went to bed, and this is the first time out of the apartment in like 3 days. So I'm really, again, not seeing Liverpool at all. I mean, I hope by the end I can actually walk around and see stuff, but anyways, it's a really long, rambling
well, you've actually just touched on the next question. You may have actually answered it.
Are we done then?
Yeah. You may as well. Actually, I think you've just answered it. The thing is, last year you were only over for a couple of days, so you didn't really get the feel of things. You've only been over just under a week now. Are you getting any sense of the community in Liverpool? I mean, you're working on your projects, so you've met certain people. Mm-hmm. Are you getting any sense of the community at large from the week you've been here?
Yeah, well, some interesting things are happening. I'm not really curtailing what people talk about. I start off with just by saying, give me your name, your age, and it's just kind of a prompt because they're nervous, and I want to get them to just start talking. Most of the good stuff is actually 3/4 in when they're comfortable, and then they become less aware of the camera. But at first, it's just, I'm John, I'm 42, and Merchant Navy, and but the only kind of questions, if they do kind of, like Quinny yesterday, South African. She runs a restaurant in town. I mean, some people just turn the camera on, they talk, and I can leave the room and make tea. Other ones need more prompting, so I am kind of asking questions like, what are the best things about Liverpool, or is there some things you want to change? Usually, though, when people are talking, I'll pause them, and then they'll say something interesting, and then we'll talk about that more. But there's some. It's funny that even though without prompting, there's certain things that have come up in the 7 videos I've done so far. I mean, again, it's something I'll have a bigger picture when I'm done all 26. But even with only 7 or 8 done so far, getting a really sense that everyone has a real sense of community involvement that I've been talking to. And again, that's not something that's prompted. I mean, Dolly was the most obvious one. She's very socially aware, involved in a lot of community programs. But I mean, even the skateboard guy. I keep calling the skateboard guy. His name's Steven. He pretty much talked about skateboarding in his skateboard magazine the whole time, and but still in a sense of community. Like, he's really worried about the young skateboarders coming up. So there's a lot of, where the money for the capital culture is going, and the fact that the money's going to put some nice marble down and a bit of shrub. And then they move out the cultural, he considers cultural people like skateboarders and buskers and like street performers and stuff, and then all you're left with is a piece of marble and a shrub. So he's really upset about that, and he really romanticizes about a little bit of concrete that people walk by, and it's just a bit of concrete. It's nothing, but for him, it's akin to Anfield Park, or I'm not sure how you. For him, it's like the soccer grounds. He spent 15 years skating on that one piece of concrete, and for him, it's and he's really upset about like kids now who. Because the city's getting more posh, and the cops are coming in and moving these kids out, giving them 90-pound tickets, their skateboards being taken away. And, again, it's like he's not just worrying about himself, it's with the community as well. And he also talked, it's funny, he actually summed up my project, because he actually mentions the A to Z. And he's like, when he travels, he doesn't just go to the main places either. And the thing with city planning is all the money goes to just certain roads. The road from the airport that the tourists will see, that's all posh. And he talks about like 100 yards beyond that, it's just derelict, and people outside the city aren't getting money. So I mean, he talked a lot of similar things that Dolly talked about, but from a skateboard punk kind of tattooed kind of perspective, which is really interesting. And all the people I've been interviewing so far touch on that. The other thing that's come up in every single interview, which I haven't prompted, which I find really interesting, is the sense of, I think it's almost like everyone's talking about the perception of Liverpool being this dangerous place. I think the history of the virus, it's got this bad reputation. And I'm getting the sense that it's like a little bit thin-skinned or knee-jerk reaction, because everyone wants to talk about it. It's not dangerous at all. I don't know where this comes from, and so I'm finding that really interesting, because I mean, I never considered Liverpool. I never had that perception of it being a dangerous place. But every interview so far wants to make sure that that's known, that their area of Kensington is good. It's a great place to live, and all the interviews have been very positive. So.
Well, that's great, Kelly. Skateboarding issue has been a big issue in Liverpool for a couple of years now, and it has been approached by the council, I think they are building skateboarding parks. And one of the issues was, one of their favourite venues was down at the seafront at the pier head. And down there's a lot of monuments. Now in Liverpool, there's a real sense of tradition amongst the older people, And while you try to be impartial, you have to try and understand both sides, whereas youngsters will only see one side. But that is an issue that's been broached. And I'd just like to mention, talking about being in touch with the community, I was quite happy with what happened on Sunday. I met Kelly on Sunday, and we did our interview. We left the flats to walk around the corner and just have one quiet social drink. And I didn't know my way around here at all, so a chap came round and Mrs. Loadabit's shop, and I asked him where directions to this pub. He said, "Where are you going?" So he told me, he said, "Get in." Threw us in his car, took us up to the pub, and it wasn't exactly round the corner, was it? So it was quite.
Well, that was interesting though, because you supposedly lived here all your life. You didn't know where Penny Lane was, which I thought was pretty strange.
I spent a lot of time in Canada. But no, I thought it was nice, because to me it expounded that Liverpool does have a been given a rough ride by the media and the press, but it's no different than any other city in Britain. There's a rough side to every city at the moment. The whole world is going through a bad era, I think. But I was made up in that paper because it did project the image of another side of Liverpool where friendly people. This man didn't hesitate. Where are you going? The Rockets, jump in, took it around. We didn't get him a pint, like, believe me. Again, you've just how many people have you interviewed at the moment, Kelly? You've mentioned a couple just now.
Well, 5 are done and edited. I'm trying to keep up with the editing, film edit, so I don't get behind. So 5 are done. The 3 I did yesterday. I was just tired. I tried to. I started at 10 and we finished around 4. And I ended up coming into town with Vicky and Patrick just to get out of the apartment. I mean, it's a weird situation in the apartment because it's like the living room is the biggest room, and all I have in there is the couch, and my set, my lights, and my camera. But the windows are blacked out, so I'm on the 8th floor. I have this great view of the park, but it's blacked out. So, kind of live in this little cave. And I don't know if I've talked about the apartment. It's just the empty camping and the empty rooms and stuff. So the other 3, I'm hoping not to get behind. I'm hoping right after this I'm going to leave and try and get back and finish them, and then I'm filming again at 6 tonight, which I guess will be the 8th or the 9th one. And then I think on Thursday I have another 3. So I'm trying to do at least 3 or 2 a day. Today's only 1 because of this thing.
Are you going to have any problems when you get to the letter Z?
No, actually, the funniest thing is, I think we have a Xena, I believe, yeah. When I first told Alan about the project, I mean, that was the immediate thing, and there's certain letters like X and U and Y and Z that we might have problems with. But I think those are the ones they focused on first, so those are the ones they found first, and we have a few backups. And
For the sake of the Telford lads, you've heard Kelly mention Sefton Park. She lives on the edge of this. It's one of the biggest parts in England. It's one of the jewels in the crown in Liverpool. But as she said, you can only look at so many trees, can't you? Then you have to get out and get about, as anything. Overall, your project, what are you hoping the end product will be? What will it?
with this project, I don't really know and I don't really care.
That's a great attitude. That's me, exactly.
I don't mean to sound like a hippie or anything, but I mean, for this project especially, it's just the process. It's this month being here, and it's a bit of a, I knew when I first thought of this idea, I was challenging myself, because, I mean, I consider myself a people person. I'm pretty outgoing and friendly, but in limited doses, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's actually really exhausting to be meeting new people every day. I'm a bit of a hermit. Like, sometimes, like, I don't leave my studio at home for, like, a week just to go out and get smokes, or, okay, it's Saturday night, I'll go out and drink. And so for a month of every single day, 2 or 3 people coming on. And that's the most tiring thing, is to be up all the time and friendly and interested. And, so, I mean, I got a little testy with Alan the other day. I just told him to shut up. Well, I didn't tell you to shut up, but I was just like, stop talking, Alan. Because we done a couple that day. And, I mean, obviously I think you knew I was kind of half joking. But, so, yeah, it's kind of this long endurance process that I'm doing as well. So I'm hoping I don't turn into a bitch by the end of it.
Well, you should move to Liverpool, because we're all like that here. Nobody takes anything serious. They're all laid back. Don't worry about anything. There's always tomorrow.
Yeah. No, but I mean, jokingly, like saying like I don't care, I don't know. But yeah, ideally what I'm hoping for is not a complete picture of Liverpool, but a real, different, genuine kind of an experience, rather than just coming and plopping down an artwork and then leaving and not knowing anything about the city. So.
Well, yeah, you've got 3 weeks actually to still investigate Liverpool. Yeah. I mean, you'll know what by then.
But you know what's great though? I mean, I hope like if my schedule, my editing, and my filming, I'm hoping like the last week and a half will be kind of done. We'll still be trying to bring the stuff down to fact to edit, but by that time I don't even need the A to Z, right? I've done 2 people from Kensington now, and I want to go to Quinny's restaurant, and you know what I mean. The last week and a half here, I'll have all this, Fen's performing in a couple weeks. I might go see her. I'm going to end up with like 26 friends, hopefully, that, some I might even keep in touch with, I kind of hit it off with Steven. I really liked him. it's like he really wants to come to Canada. It's just like I have a couch, you know. I mean, that's one of the great things about being an artist. But yeah, I think that last week and a half, I'll be able to walk around and really experience the city from all these little stories, you know. So I think it'll be
Well,
good.
we took you to the Alma de Cuba last time you were home, didn't we? And you'd never had a beer in a chase before, that was
Yeah,
it?
that's a great place. Yeah.
You lads,
Oh,
want-
that's the one thing here. I mean,
you
I
lads
really
want to have a
gotta
look
get
at
to
that
the
before you
pubs
go
here,
back.
'cause the bars here are amazing. We don't have, like, where we were the other night, the Terrace. There's no such thing like that in Canada. All our or we don't call it bars, are just awful. Like, you walk into, and it looks like crap from the outside, and you go in, it's like this huge
Well, I want to
ceilings,
go in and
it's
see
like
where you live.
awesome.
We got to this pub, and outside I went, "Good God, could have took us to a better place than this."
Oh, I loved it.
And she said, "Oh, you want to see it inside? It's great." So
everything's
so I
so
went.
old
So
here, you know,
I
it's
went,
like-
"Blimey, it's falling to pieces." She said, "We've got nothing like this in Canada."
I mean, we have really bad fake British pubs.
They're all.
It's just
I think.
awful.
Is it right? When I was in
And
Canada,
I think it's probably an American chain.
when I was in Canada and America too, it was bars like they went what we call pubs, like which are like a big building with separate rooms. You drank in a bar. Is it still the same?
Sorry, I faded
Well,
out there. What was it called?
what I
bars, yeah.
remember in my Merchant Navy days, went to Canada, went to America.
That was a long time
You had a
ago.
drink in a bar. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah. Yeah, you went into a bar, and that's what it was, just a long bar, and that's, you went out to one and to the next bar. Whereas pubs over there, they're like a small community centre inside.
Yeah, no, it's like
Is that
that
the
too.
difference?
I mean, yeah, some places, you know, there'll be dart nights and that kind of thing. Depends where you go. And little bars, it's, you know, if there's a little bar in my neighborhood called the Old York, and it's more of a restaurant, but it's a bar, and everyone in the neighborhood goes there. And half the time I walk in, I live in a big kind of four building kind of warehouse, you know, right next to a slaughterhouse kind of thing, right downtown Toronto. And sometimes I go to the Old York, and it's like every single person I know there lives in my building, you know, kind of thing. But I mean, Toronto too. I mean, Toronto's like the big city in Canada. It's like our New York, whatever. It's like 6 million or something like that. And it's, you know, there's also the really trendy kind of bars
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that kind of thing.
seen
I don't
ones
tend to
out
go to
here,
those ones, but you know.
Well, regarding your projects, have you been given any clues to where it'll be available for people to view in September?
I have a kind of a vague idea. Alan could probably take this question. It's going to be on the big screen, supposedly. I think we're trying to, maybe twice a day, air segments of it. I'm still kind of fighting for it to be, like, somewhere on a TV somewhere, so that it's, at least for, I don't know if to be an hour a month or 3 months, but it's, even if it's in a hallway somewhere, someone can see it, but, you know. I mean, the big screen is, you know, the ideal place for it. Really, it's, hopefully people walk by and it's,
We're talking about the big screen in Clayton Square, are we?
I assume.
Yeah, you haven't
Do you
seen
have
it.
more than one big screen? Don't know.
Well, no, but it's become, you're right, because that's the terminology now. People are saying, have you seen us on the big screen? So you automatically think of this.
Yeah.
It's a screen that was put up about 18 months ago
Right.
in a big spout, bigger than, as big as that one, to be honest.
right.
So I'm assuming that's where we're talking about. So people just passing by be able to see that at any one time. And
But I really like. I'm really anxious also to take this home to Canada and show this in the gallery in Toronto and see what the response will be. You know,
yeah.
to actually to share that with my community as well.
I've no doubt that'll happen. Now, can you give us an insight into some of the work you've done previously?
I'm kind of all over the map. I don't really have kind of a, you know, pat description or a sentence that I tend to just respond to what's around me. It's kind of a hackneyed term now for the last 10 years, but the everyday. I deal with everyday situations in my work usually because of my training. I mean, elements of time and repetition for me though, not in any kind of like art school rarefied minimalist thing, but more just the slow burn violence of time. I worked a lot in factories and that kind of thing, and so I mean, I've never done a video like this interview kind of thing. Humor is important in my work. A lot of my videos are just kind of funny little moments that happen in the studio. Or I've done videos with my cat, like, you know, kind of funny little moments. I do a lot of, in terms of repetition or like time-based kind of projects that I do. There's one piece that's kind of well known. It's called Hiccup, and that was again just me dealing with I was invited to do this piece at this high school. It had to be time-based. and involve the students in some way. I ended up doing this piece where I got interested in, like, everyday rituals. So, you get up in the morning. Most people will work 9 to 5 or whatever, and I mean, I don't anymore for the last couple of years, but I'm pretty much a working artist. Getting up in the morning, you get up at the same time, you make your tea or your coffee, you got to catch that bus to go to work, you get to work, and I started, if you slow down and actually become aware of those moments, your daily routine, everyone has a daily routine, and I did this project to try and highlight maybe when your daily routine intersects with someone else's daily routine, and whether you notice or not. I mean, there was a point where I was living in Hamilton and commuting to Toronto every day, and it's the same bus. I had to catch that same bus because it had to be to work at a certain time, and I'd get on the bus, and there was always those same people in line that because they're on their schedule, I'm on their schedule. So there's these parts where your timelines intersect. So I did this piece for the school where I went to the school and I walked around and was thinking about maybe doing a piece in the bathroom or with the lockers, and I smoke, so I was always going outside the school and sitting on the front steps and thinking about, again, it's kind of like when I have always found when I try too hard to make art, that's always shit, right? If you just sit back and let things come and actually just slow down and think about what you're doing. So I'd go outside for a cigarette and think about, okay, I do this piece inside and video piece or whatever. And I'd never done performance work in my life. I was kind of always one of those artists that made fun of performance art, only because I never quite understood performance art. The theatricalness of performance art seems so removed from my everyday life. It's like this, people. You go to a gallery and there's someone, and 70% of the time they're naked for some reason, and they move really slowly, and it's just almost like this weird ballet, and it's not my everyday, right? Removed. So I'm sitting there on the steps and I'm thinking about my art project, and I mean, I went I had like a couple weeks where I was going to the school, walking around, thinking about what I was going to do, and I was always be outside on these steps smoking, and I started to, just be aware of things that were happening, and so I'd be there in the morning, and I kept noticing, the routine of these students showing up in their school bus and getting out and going in, and a lot of times, those kids stood over there and smoked, and this one teacher always stood over there, and these 3 girls always stood over there, and so I decided to do this performance piece where I did my artwork actually 3 months before the show was supposed to happen. So no one in the school knew what I was doing except for the principal. And what I did was I showed up every day for a month, and I wore the exact same clothes, and I sat in the exact same spot. And it didn't really look like I was doing anything. My performance was just these everyday actions of, turning to the right and scratching my head, and I was drinking a coffee, take a pack of cigarettes out, light a cigarette, smoke it, butt it out, take a book out of my bag, read a couple pages, take a pen out of my jacket. Just, it didn't really look like I was doing anything, but I'd choreographed this little, kind of like the ballet of the ordinary is what I call it. And so I had headphones on, so that it told me exactly when to, turn right. So for every day for a month, at exactly like 9, 12, and 13 seconds, I'm raising my coffee. So I was trying to create this little deja vu effect, and I did it from like 9 a.m. to 9:15, and that's when pretty much, give or take, the bus would be late sometimes. The bus would arrive, the kids would come out. So I was trying to interject this little routine into their daily routine. And it was kind of like this project, whether they ever noticed or not was beyond the point. It was just I was offering the opportunity that this could occur. At some point, someone would look over and, and notice this thing happening. So I did the performance for a month, and the last week I videotaped it. It's a separate piece now, really. The performance was one piece. So the videotape I've shown in galleries, so there's like 7 monitors inserted into a wall. And, I mean, what you see is me almost moving in sync with myself. So I'm raising my coffee and all the monitors at the exact same time, but everything else in the video is different. Sometimes there's kids standing in the same place, but sometimes different kids. Some days it's raining, or the light's different, or the car's going by. So it's almost become this little hiccup in time. That's why I ended up calling it Hiccup. So I've done kind of a lot of projects like that. And kind of the other work I do sometimes with my humor is I tweak little things. Like one quick little video is called Crosswalk, where I was with a friend, I had my camera, and it's just, a crosswalk. And it was just to twist that a bit, where I'd set up the camera and I asked him to, when the light changed, I don't know if you guys do that over here. It's big in hockey and basketball when you do wind sprints. It's there's like a blue line to red line where you gotta run as fast as you can, touch the blue line, run back. It's kind of a sporting thing. Is it done here in soccer? I don't know. But anyways,
What's
sorry,
it called?
football.
What's
This is
it
like
called,
wind
Kelly?
sprints, like in gym, where you have to like you gotta run and touch the line and run back. Maybe this piece won't relate here, but anyways, I just asked him to, as soon as the light changed, just run as fast as he could, back and forth, or as many times as he could until the light changed. And it's just this quirky moment where it's taken advantage. It's a crosswalk, but it's also those painted lines that would be in a gym. So quick little videos like that. I did another project called Glow House. I'll just wrap this up quickly. Another project where Glow House, where I kind of just took that experience of, when you're walking down a street late at night and you come across a house and all the lights are off and it's just, but obviously there's someone watching TV. It's like 2 in the morning. You know that beautiful blue glow that happens on the walls when someone's watching TV. I just kind of took that moment, and the first time I did it was in Winnipeg, and it was a one-night thing. We broke into this abandoned house, and my friend lived in Winnipeg, and he spent like a week gathering like 50 TVs together. And we just like, we went into the house, we plugged them all in, and it was just a matter of just turning them all to the same channel. So this is like a 3-story house with basement windows and attic windows and side windows, and it was a house that was on a lot that you could walk all the way around. So that little pulse became this, or the little flicker became this pulse, because all the TVs were in sync. It almost made the house look completely gutted with no interior walls, and it's just like, and I use everyday things. Like I could have done that with strobe lights or whatever, but it's just a matter of like using TV. I tend to do that a lot with my pieces. I don't tend to do the obvious thing with the medium. I tend to, TV is one of the lowest mediums there is, and I'm just interested in the little flickering light. And a project after that became these glow videos where I'd rent. I was interested in capturing the different lights from different genre movies, how they're filmed. It was kind of a way of taking Glow House back into the gallery, and so I'd rent a romance movie, or so I did this piece called horror, suspense, romance, porn, kung fu. So I'd rent a kung fu movie or a porn movie, and I'd stick it in my TV. And again, it's another example of all my stuff being kind of very, how I do work is very lowbrow. I don't use any kind of expensive equipment. So I rent a DVD, put it in my TV, turn on, and I just pointed my TV at the wall, and I filmed my wall at home. So I'm just filming the glow on the wall, and then in the gallery I litter the floor with TVs and I show that glow. So there's no sound, there's no image, but it's just the pulse of light from a porn movie. And I ended up just capturing like 15 minutes of each movie. So the height of the suspense movie, the most suspenseful part, or the height of the romance movie, or the height of the porn movie would be the gangbang. So on the walls is just washed this kind of, the porn is very kind of, it's second generation glow, so it's a little bit distilled, but it's pinks and oranges and kind of violets, because it's close-ups of flesh, and there's this rhythmic pulsing kind of, which gets faster, and it's just kind of but yeah, those are like a couple projects. I see something and then I do something with it. And, yeah.
Sounds very interesting. Without giving your age away,
38.
which we don't want you to do. How long have you been an artist? Has it involved a lot of travel outside Canada, have you? Or was this your first?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I graduated art school in 1994, so 12 years or something, 12 or 13 years, I guess, professional. And it's a weird situation. Canada is such a big country, in Europe. I mean, I really want to show over here. I've shown, I've spent like 10 years showing coast to coast across Canada. Here it'd be like showing from Belfast to Russia. It's like, so I mean, there's a lot of, every town has like a million galleries. So I've done that. The last 4 or 5 years is trying to, get outside that. I've shown in the States, fair amount. But Europe is just so far away. I almost have to come here and do a residency to get hooked up into shows. And I mean, that's how all shows happen. You just meet people and they see your stuff and they invite you. And so, I mean, the only time I get over here is when some foreign curator schleps their way to Toronto and does a studio visit with me. and then I get into these things. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't have much interest in showing in the States, really. I've never really pursued the States. All the shows I've been in down there, they've just come about. I've been asked, so I do them for the money, and I feel dirty afterwards. And yeah.
And yes, America is right on your doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Is it specific?
I'll just stop there.
I see. Well, do you think you'll get back here after this project? It'd be nice to see you back.
Yeah, I love coming to England. I don't know why. They did a project with the Icon Gallery in 2000. Well, as a kid, I came over here I've spent 3 months in Scotland once, and I've been to Ireland. I've shown a couple times in Belfast, and I did a project with the Icon Gallery in 2003, and I was here for a month doing a project. And done a couple things in London and now Liverpool, and yeah, like, and it's for some reason that's the shows have been. I mean, I should pursue it just because I have been getting a little bit more invitation to come back. So I think there's an interest, you know. So I want to take advantage of that.
Well, that's the way it works, and it
Yeah.
won't be the invitations. But
Mhm.
it would be nice to see you back, say, for the City of Culture
Well,
year.
next time there's a big soccer match, you know.
Oh yeah, why as well? Well, you'd be in that case, you'd be back every year, possibly
As
twice.
long as I don't have to watch a game, yeah.
Possibly twice a year. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. Anybody in the audience like to ask any questions of Kelly or any information about the whole project, Ten and Spin, anything, where you are, how you got here?
I mean, it's partly just an observation. Since meeting you, strike me as somebody who just loves making work. You obviously just love making artworks, but at the same time, there's things like biennials, there's curators, there's a game that you kind of. You seem to not like that game, but you know how to play it. Like the whole coming here and insisting that you kind of stay for a month. Most artists don't do that, and try to create a really real situation, living here, bar conversations, really natural, but at the same time, to make it so natural is a lot of work and organisation, and I like that kind of friction between. You've just got to play the game to make your work, but you seem to be, but then.
Yeah,
There's no other way for you to be in Liverpool to make work apart from this big game that's insisting that this big biennial.
Yeah, I know the game exists, and it's one of my. Everyone has things about themselves they think they should do better or kick themselves for, or, you know. And it's the one thing as I whatever that game is, I don't play it. I you know, I'm not as aggressive as I should be. You know, if someone says hi to me and find out who they are, and you know, at an opening, find out who the big curators are, and make sure I'm next to them. Like, I just can't do that. I just, you know, I'll be outside having a cigarette or something, or yeah, I don't know. And I guess it's just my personality. Maybe it's my working class background. I just feel awkward in those situations, and I don't know. I mean, I'm more concerned about the end result. You know, it's like the lifetime body of work, and what happens, and you know.
But following on from that, if you know, suppose you're Kelly's the curator of the biennial, do you insist that every artist in your biennial lives in the city for a month and doesn't just see the Beatles Museum? I mean, you're actually challenging the way that biennial invites artists for research visits, production visits.
I think if you remember those 4 days, I was really, I don't know if you remember when I was here in September, I was feeling kind of like boxed in and kind of. And the whole time, again, like one part of my brain is like, okay, I'm in this big Biennial, I got to make this big artwork. So I remember it's like I wanted to see the tops of the tower blocks. Maybe I'll do this big piece, and you know, and it's that feeling that I have to do this big artwork. And then, like I said, those little moments happen, the conversation, the apartment, and yeah, and I was really nervous about, like, you know, it was just, should I do this project? But it really felt true. It really felt like it was my gut instinct that. I'd be happy with in the end, kind of thing. That it just made sense. You know, it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. We'll see at the end.
They said that you might be a bit grumpy this afternoon, but you've been really kind of accommodating and easy to listen to, so that's my first observation. You mentioned working in factories. What did you do?
Well, I found when I went to art school, I ended up being a lot older than I went to art school in Halifax, NASCAT, and I mean my dad's a steel worker. Welland is actually kind of similar to Liverpool. I live in Toronto now, but I'm from a small town, southern Ontario, right near the American border. And Welland was a steel town, and you know, Atlas Steel's closed a number of years ago, so it's the same thing. It was the big employer in the city, kind of thing. It was, you know, so you know, I was the first kid in my family to go past grade 12, kind of thing. You know, so it's that background, and you know, when I graduated high school, most of my friends went on to grade 13, and then you know they were going to university, and they wanted to be things. You know, whether they're stupid at the time, right? A lot of them ended up just taking like psych, and they think they're going to be a psychiatrist or something, and then you know they get married and have kids. I mean, 90%, a lot of people that go to university, that's what happens. But you know, I mean, my idea was, you know, graduate and get a job. So I mean, I did that. I mean, my perspective was that people who went to university or college were either rich or smart, and I didn't feel I was that. So graduated and got a job. So, I mean, I worked at this place called Canadian Tire for like 6 years. And, I mean, so I graduated high school, and I just worked in factories, like glass factories. And, you know, every job imaginable. I lived in Niagara Falls for a couple of years. I was like front desk clerk at a Best Western, you know, at the Falls. And, you know, I bartended and waitress and washed dishes and, you know, all kinds of weird factory works, you know, drive forklift. I did, used to build, what do you call it? It was like a build houses, but it was kind of an indoor, like, you know, building walls and stuff like that. And so every job imaginable. And then, you know, it was like 6 years between like graduating high school and then, I mean, I never even took art in high school. I don't know. It's really weird how I ended up being an artist. I mean, I used to like doodle on my friends' jean jackets. Like that was, you know what I mean? And all my friends like, oh, you should go to art school, right? Never been to a gallery in my life. My parents never took us to museums or galleries or, you know, any of that kind of thing. I was living in Hamilton at the time, and Dundas is like this little city right next to it's population 20,000. It's a really small town. They had this little private art school. It was run by like 3 English guys. And, you know, it was a bus ride away, like 10 minutes on the bus. And, you know, I was feeling shitty, right? I was working these shitty jobs, living in a crappy bachelor apartment in Hamilton, feeling crappy about life. And the only thing, you know, I used to doodle. And so I ended up going down there one day and ended up, you know, for some reason, I just went on portfolio day and I got in. And that afternoon, the first day, I was just like, oh, my God, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then that was just it. I did 2 years there, and then I found out about this art school in Halifax, and I went there. And then, I mean, there was no looking back, you know, kind of thing. Because, I mean, I already knew what my option was, right? So
how did you get noticed then?
How did you get
noticed?
Well, I was partly, I mean, it's always, when I talk to young students about that, it's this weird 50-50 thing, right? It's got to be the work. You got to be making good work, but you got to be doing stuff. And then there's luck, right? It's like I went to NASCAD, and I mean, I was very serious. I pumped out work because I knew this is what I wanted. There was no like second guesses, and so I mean, I was kind of like, you know, when you're in high school and you're in grade 12 and you're like, you know, the big guy in campus or whatever. Like at NASCAD, I was kind of that, you know, not with any kind of ego or whatever, but you know, there's always a few that stand out because they're doing work and they're showing and they're, you know, so I had that kind of energy. So when I graduated NASCAD, I was also very lucky because Halifax is a city where it's got the big art school, but I mean, there's not really anything else. So there's no jobs, so people tend to go there and then leave and go to Toronto or Montreal, Vancouver, and so it's really hard for the arts community to like, you know, take effect, to get a hold, to get kind of a critical mass going on. You know, I was lucky that, and I didn't realize at the time when I graduated, 3 or 4 years previously, people had decided to stay. So people that had graduated stayed and started opening up little arts run centers and started curating their own shows and, you know, getting a warehouse and doing a big sculpture show. And lucky again, there was a guy there that was writing for Canadian Art. So when I graduated, I had this kind of energy. And I knew I kind of had a plan where I didn't want to just leave right away. I wanted to at least get, you know, pad my CV with some shows. It's all the galleries in town, I mean, drink with them, like, right? So, I mean, if I can't, they're not going to give me a show. I'm not going to get a show in Toronto. So the plan was to stay in Halifax for a while and do some shows, some Artist Run Center shows and stuff. And then, yeah, I fell into this community that were doing shows, these big shows. And then it got, you know, a year and a half after graduating, it's like, you know, this 4-page spotlight in Canadian art. And it just kind of, I mean, partly because I had the gusto to be doing stuff, but also luck, you know, which is always, that's the way it always happens, I think. And then just kind of went. So I stayed in Halifax for about 6 years, and I showed a lot, but then it was kind of a home base to shoot proposals to Toronto and Montreal and that kind of thing. And, you know.
Could the A to Z show only work in the UK? Could it work in Canada?
It would be a different piece. I mean, I knew I wanted to do the interviews. I knew I wanted to kind of like meet people that way with this project and invite people into my home and get to know. Like I wanted to meet Liverpool. The A to Z thing, like I already kind of had the idea framed in my head. And then it was actually kind of like it popped into my head. Oh yeah, they have those maps there, and that's what clued into not just. That was kind of what I mean by I'll just tack that on as a little conceptual thing. So I have this A to Z, and that gives me an idea of like, okay, the names Adam to Xena, whatever. But then conceptually, what I liked about it too was it was nice because it did talk about not just following that, right? So the project was kind of fleshed out, and it was just a nice coincidence. But you're right. I mean, and also I don't think this is a project I'll do again. Like it's not. I'm not gonna make a series of these in other cities. I wouldn't, like, if I got invited to do a Birmingham A to Z, I'd say no, because for me, I've done it. There's no learning experience for me other than learning about Birmingham, but, you know, it would be kind of boring to do it again. The joy is doing it the first time, you know, and the experience, so just to whip off another one. All my work is kind of like that. I don't tend to do, even if it sells, right? Like, I'll do a series of, like, 4 sculptures, and they sell that day at my dealer, and she calls me, and do you want to make some more? I'm like, no. That's done, you know. So I don't tend to repeat myself. It's the experience of doing it, kind of. But I don't know.
Well, it appears that's brought us to the end of the show. We'd like to thank Kelly, who's been very clear in describing her career. We'd like to give a special thanks to the lads from Telford. Hope you enjoy your stay for how long you're here, and hope you have a safe journey back. I've been to Telford and know it's a nice place. I would like to thank anybody that was logged on, especially my neighbour, and if she hasn't, want me lager back. Hope we'll see you again. Take care. Thanks for coming. God bless. Bye-bye.